Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're playing PtP Portal. I really enjoy PtP and I really enjoy Portal, so I mashed them together and built this deck right from the ground up. So it's definitely not perfect, but it's an enjoyable one to play. So overall, we're running the basic PtP engine, so Trials of Light, Altered Fate, Path to Purgatory. They're your kind of three standard cards that you want to be running a maximum of 3 of each of. Other than that though, we are running deck fillers like Ancient Amplify, which is great on turn 1 and pretty good nearly whenever you play it. Tranquil Cog for extra draw power, and just purely because it doesn't matter if we overdraw, we're going to discard whatever the hell we want. Then we've got a few artifact fillers in Icarus, Lion, Cat Cannoneer, and Soldier, all ways to either pull artifacts, summon artifacts, fluff up the deck, really just any of those options. Honestly, I've been considering Machine Soldier maybe dropping that, but overall it's been okay. Running Morton the Manipulator, why? Because I can. I just had 2 card slots and was like, oh, we'll just throw in a couple of Mortons, he'll be fun. And other than that, Puppet Room, perfect PtP card, infinite value off it, really great when you're swarming the board over and over, similar for Puppet Strings, great for dealing with your opponent. And your Des Ex Machina, which is your Altered Fate every single turn that you could possibly want it, so works really nicely when you run that too. Then you just got your Path to Purgatory drops to go whenever you want. Usually I discard one of them and I get to play 2, which is usually fair, and other than that it's quite enjoyable. This deck won't beat Atomy, I had a lot of trouble doing that, but most other decks it's quite fun to play, so we'll get right into some games and check it out. So our first matchup is against Elena Haven. Elena Haven is one of those decks that's just a little annoying.
Activate.
But it was pretty okay. I mean, as long as you can deal with their bodies, it's not too bad. So we get the Icarus Puppet Room and Des Ex Machina. I mean, all of those are actually pretty good, especially the Puppet Room into Des Ex Machina. Always works out really well. And we get Ancient Amplify, which is perfect drop to have when you already have Des in your hand, because you can just throw that to the board. And of course we have our curves, so 1, 2, 3, now into 4 if we decide to drop Path early, depending on what else we get. And our deck is already at 41 cards, so we're already over our standard deck limit just by playing 2 cards so far. Tranquil Cog actually fills out my 3 slot a little bit better. It means I can draw a couple of cards and fill out my hand. And we get even more artifacts into the deck. Artifacts are basically my deck fillers. They make sure that I don't overdraw when I'm doing stupid shenanigans with Des and with Altered Fate. So really handy to have those. And getting another Des is actually pretty good, even though we're not too worried about filler cards in general. And really, our Puppet Strings and our Puppet Room are both really good clear control cards that constantly generate extra deaths. So that's what you really want to do. Especially since they don't banish and they're just destroyed. Rabbit Helper, of course, pain in the ass for Elena's Prayer, especially when they're comboing it with a Mosaic. And an Evolve.
You're done for.
At least we can deal with it pretty reasonably.
What would you do without me?
I mean, we have puppets. We now have Trials of Light. And we have Cat Cannoneer, which is even better. There is no reason to not play Cat Cannoneer here. Next turn, it's going to be pretty reasonable, I think. I mean, we have 3 puppets, which means we can basically send those to whatever we want. So that's a free 3 damage, plus 3 bodies. We may only be at like 6 shadows right now, but that's pretty substantial considering. We're in Resonance, which means Des Ex Machina is a great card to play. Because we don't really need to hold on to any of these. We can afford to always dump 1 path if it favors us getting more shadows. And overall, these puppets just trade really well, so we don't even have to use an Evolve to remove this Tenko.
Farewell then, friends.
But at the same time, getting a full new hand. Plus Altered Fate, which is awesome. Altered Fate will really help us start thinning this out.
The sky is with you.
There's either a White Wing, most likely going for another Tenko. So there's the second Tenko from their deck.
Now this is exciting.
Second Tenko. Mildly more annoying than the first, but not something we can't handle. I mean, we've got Cat Cannoneers and those sort of cards should work really nicely.
You might say I'm a genius.
I do end up going with the Icarus for extra evolve point, just because I do, like I said, have the cat cannoneer, and we have some puppets, which are fairly solid. So we want to be able to remove this 7-5 as effectively as possible. And Icarus is a good job for that. Especially since we can just drop an Altered Fate here. Remove this whole hand and start fresh next turn. Mainly because if we had have got a Path to Purgatory being on 8, if we had have drawn into the other 2 that are in the deck, we could have actually used them to remove their entire board constantly. So there wouldn't be any coming back from that at that point. Considering we're already at 27 Necromancy now, it doesn't take long once you kick off that Des turn to really pump up your Necromancy. And we do get the 3-1 and the Soldier. So we really kind of want to be in Necromancy, not into Necromancy, sorry, into Resonance here. I think that it's important that we drop these cards so we can get what we need to really close this game. And since we do have another Ancient Artifact, we can at least deal with this 4-3. While at the same time throwing the Ancient Amplifier to the board. Just to pump some more cards into the deck. Especially considering we have just drawn double Trial of Light. It's pretty bonkers. Goblin Mount, Ogre, yeah, not really a problem. I mean, this is why you run stuff like Dance of Death. Discarding them or using them either way is always going to be reasonably good. And an effective way to deal with stuff. So go for the Trials of Light. And we can just pump artifacts to the board. Why not? I mean, they're free.
Everybody.
Nothing wrong with playing free artifacts. And there it is, double Path to Purgatory. So now what we have to be careful of is keeping in mind that we don't want to be pumping too much into our draw now. We really just want to get these paths out, stay out of Resonance, and drag the next 2 turns.
Let us conclude.
Obviously though, this Heavenly Aegis kind of ruins my day, but it does only clear the 3-1, which means we get to have 4 damage plus the 2 paths for lethal. So it actually worked out pretty fine. It actually would have been worse if he had have had more cards to play. If he had have had an area of effect like the Myers, would have been much worse. But then again, I would have been able to clear most stuff anyway, so it wouldn't have been a big issue.
I envy you.
Worked out really well. Next up, we get to play against Rune. Rune keeping things fresh and interesting, as always.
Enhance. Fire.
I guess you're looking for a fight.
So our hand is pretty garbage here, honestly. I don't really like much at all. The Puppet Room's about the only card I really like to keep, just because Puppet Room does have some good advantage to it in that early game where you can just generate puppets and constantly put something on the board to deal with your opponent's threats. But we do curve out pretty nicely apart from that. Being able to get the Ancient Amplifier into the Magisteel Lion is pretty good. Even if we don't decide to go that route, we do have the Altered Fate now, which could help us generate some early shadows and refresh our hand if that's the plays that we decide to go to. Which it is. I mean, they didn't play any kind of threat, so I don't really need to react. I can just kind of play it and hope for my better cards next turn. Which for the most part is true. We've got some pretty good cards here. This 1-2, again, not really a threat, not something I'm worried about. Being able to drop my Puppet Room now seems completely fine. It means I do get to generate a couple of puppets this turn, which will allow me to hopefully extend my reach next turn with either puppet strings or with another card. Happy Pig. Yep, okay. Not really a problem. Probably could have went for Morton here instead of Icarus, but I think Icarus is pretty much just fine.
Coming at you.
Although I probably could have went better trades here than what I did. I mean, if I had rammed the Ancient and then rammed the Icarus, I could have had the Icarus on 1 extra health, which would have been nice, but not really mandatory. I mean, you are aiming for things to die anyway and be discarded, so it's not a big deal if we lose the Icarus.
Let me share my wisdom.
And then Mysteria Magic Founder coming down, so we know this is a really weird kind of deck. I mean, they seem to be pushing burn damage as their primary lethal, so very interesting.
Yo, totally burn.
But we have a few more options now. We're already at 10% of the way to what we want to be at. And we just got Deus Ex Machina, which is pretty much perfect for our curve line. I do play a couple of these puppets out because I don't want to be discarding a card next turn. I'd rather keep whatever I can get when I have to. So, and we already have 4 puppets. I mean, what's losing 1 puppet really going to do to us? It does create a target for Piercing Rune though, which is kind of unfortunate. But I mean, could be worse things. So now we just go for puppets. We'll just go all in on our puppet hand this turn and drop Des, even though we don't get the actual discard out of Des here. I mainly just want to unclutter the hand a little bit, because we are going to basically be discarding going forward. Even though maybe keeping a couple of puppets would have been okay, I feel like I just really wanted to dump these this turn. Plus, it means it's going to be harder to deal with the board this turn in general. I mean, if they decided to go for some kind of random effects or anything, it would have been a little worse. Ultimate Carrot though.
It won't be long now.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, they're bound to trade. The Morton actually is going to be able to steal the carrot and deal with the 6-2 on its own, while allowing me to most likely play into either Tranquil Cog or Machina Soldier. Which with what we've got, Tranquil Cog actually seems okay. I can draw a couple cards, which thins my deck out a little bit, making it a little easier to get a couple of the cards I want, while at the same time just putting something on board that will give us some advantage later on. So we get to discard all of this thanks to our Des effect. And it's pretty good. I mean, we got Double Cat Cannoneer, Ancient Amplifier, another Puppet Room. It gives us a fair few good options. Another Tranquil Cog as well. This is the third Mysterio we've seen, so their damage now is off the charts. We really just want to be able to deal with this hand. So to go for the Tranquil, which gives us a draw. Another Trial of Light, not great. But Ultimate Carrot trading here works out. We get to play Carrot again, discard this hand. The Trial of Lights will allow us to draw a couple more cards on top of what we already get, so we should basically be at 8 card hand, so that's really nice. Especially since we did draw double Path to Purgatory and are at 30. So all we need now is to survive. Survive this turn, make it into the next one, deal with their board, which Path does well. So it looks like we should be able to close this game. I mean, Path to Purgatory is going to pick up the clear on that Oz, which will mean that they will lose any spells that they have. And we can even drop the Ancient artifact onto the board as well. So that's 12.
Death is another
Works pretty well.
Unbelievable.
Tranquil Cogs will activate next turn. Not really any kind of loss to me. As long as I'm, getting consistent damage out at this point, I can pretty easily win. So it looks like they don't have anything else going forward. I mean, all they needed was to be able to deal 5 more damage to me. And they just don't have it, so kind of unfortunate. So as always, you'll find this deck in the description below. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content, and I will catch you guys next time. See ya.